All right. Hello, greetings, and salutations. Welcome back to the BFC, where we go into the trenches of the trading world and get us some DD from the source. It's locked in day five. Day five. So I've been purposely working up. Oh my God, I got my. The thing about these cans, they just like, they get you real good. But cheers, guys. Day five. And let's have it. hmm All right. Well, guys, be sure to hit the like button. Stay tuned to the end because I have another stock that I'm going to bring to the table. I actually just added it to the BFC Discord watch list. But until then, we are going to talk about our most recent addition. That is Metavesco, ticker MVCO. Let's get right into it with today's guest, CEO Ryan Schadel. Let's bring him in. All right, there he is finally. How you doing, Ryan? Great to have you.
Doing great, my friend. How are you?
Excellent. Well, this is your maiden voyage on the BFC. Great to have you here.
I'm excited to be here.
So let's talk about. Let's go right to the start. Let's go right to the start. I know you have quite a social media presence. I've been following you for quite some time now. Let's talk about the story, the Ryan Schadel story, and I hope I'm saying your name correctly. What brought you to Metavesco? Like, talk about the journey. I want to hear the Ryan Schadel journey.
I don't know if we have enough time for that.
There's always enough time.
Yeah. I'll give you the shortest version I can give you, I guess, with some context. I've always been interested in finance and in financial markets, at least, not so much finance. Like I hated accounting class, but I've always been into financial markets. Even in high school, I used to skip school and go hang out with this old lady at the bank. She was the broker in Waynesboro, Georgia. She was the stockbroker there at the First Union Bank. And I would skip school and go hang out there with her. And my favorite thing to read was the Wall Street Journal at the age of 16, So I've always just kind of had a knack for it. I understood finance. I understood the markets, both sides of it. I understood how a market, just inherently, I grasped it very, very quickly. I made my first trade the day I turned 18 when I was old enough to open a brokerage account. And it was a small cap stock. Okay. Back then it would have been called a penny stock. It was like $1, a share. That trade went well. The next thing you know, I'm trading 25-cent stock on the NASDAQ, things like that. I bought stock in this company. This is some years later after I had gotten my feet wet in the staffing industry, which is kind of where I really built my career. That was a long way from Wall Street, where I really wanted to go coming out of high school. But I had a few years experience in the staffing industry, and I read about this company called Passel Corp. I think they were in Virginia. They're a staffing company. So, wow, okay, let me check this out. And it was a sub penny, stock, and which to me at the time, I knew what pink sheets were, but I'd never really took them seriously. I would never put my money in something, on pink sheets. It's got to be a scam, right? So sure enough, I put some money into it, and it was a scam indeed. And that's how I got introduced to penny stocks on the OTC. Okay. I made a few more trades here and there, and it was just I never made any money, buying investing in an OTC stock. And I had the labor business. Well, at the time, it was more traditional staffing. We were doing longer term placements for companies that needed white collar help. And my primary experience was in blue collar. And it was a time where the economy had just come out of the global financial crisis. And there was a ton of opportunity, I felt like, in the day labor, construction labor, warehouse labor side of the blue collar. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna go back to doing that. And when I decided to do it, I was like, man, it would be cool if I could do this as a public company on the pink sheets and just have it actually be a legitimate company. Understand that my impression of any OTC at that point in time was it's a scam. Okay. And so we'd be the only legitimate company out of all 7,000 trading. That was, a little naive, but that was my impression of it. So I got on Google and I went to sec.gov and I read a lot and I figured out how to do it. So, okay, I got to file a thing called an S1, I have to get some money first and follow Reg D. And I just kind of, it was a do-it-yourself deal. So we filed an S1. Well, I started the company on May 30th. That was in 2011. I opened the first office in November 2011. I filed the S1. And then, a little less than a year later, LTNC traded for the first time. It was 2012. And I want to say it was May or June. And that was my first time as a figure in a public company. And wow, the learning curve is humongous. Not just on running a public company, but just the ins and outs of how things work from that side. The financing is it's so much different than what they teach you in college. It's nothing like what they teach you in college. Yeah. So
that's such a case for so many professions.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I have a master's in education, and I'll tell you right now,
Okay.
They don't teach you 90% of what you're going to learn and be actually doing, in the actual.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like that's the case for a lot of areas, a lot of careers.
Yeah, for sure. And there's no, there's no CEO school, and it's different too. If you're on the OTC, it's one thing. If you're NASDAQ, it's a whole other thing. And, they don't tell you when you, if I had gone the proper route and got somebody actually take us public and it wasn't a do-it-yourself, maybe somebody would have told me, hey, these are things you're going to have to deal with. But for a year, after I took it public, numbers were growing, revenue was jumping 20, 30, 40% month over month. We were crushing it, and I'm putting out press releases, and I'm like, yeah, man, the stock's going to trade so much. And crickets, it didn't trade for a year, hardly traded. I bet not even $100,000. It was crazy.
Wow.
And that's where, people started hitting me up for promotions, and I'm like, this sounds sketchy. And so I learned a lot going through all that. You fast forward from the labor years, obviously, everyone kind of knows the story. In 2021, I got approached with an opportunity to buy a beverage company. At the time, it was known prevalent as Takeover. It's more known now as Locked In Beverages. And, it was at first I was really not interested in the deal. I looked at it and I was like, man, this isn't, they got an idea. They talked to me about the product, which I did find I was like, okay, hydrogen enriched water. That does sound interesting. I did some research on it. I was like, okay, this is a legit product. There's, it's not real mainstream, but this is a legitimate product. And, but I just didn't feel like, you got an idea. You need a little bit more than that. And that's where I said, well, we do have some celebrity and sports figures. I'm like, okay, well, now I might be a little more interested in that. And, this is the part of the story that I think just about everybody knows. They said, yeah, we've got Alex Guerrero. And I'm like, well, okay. That's Tom Brady's trainer. They're like best friends. And, I'm like, okay, all right. So I see what you're hinting at here. You got Alex Guerrero. So you probably have Tom Brady. All right. Put me on the phone with Alex Guerrero. And they put me on a Zoom call with Alex Guerrero. So, okay. All right, we'll do this deal. And, we structured the deal. Of course, it meant me stepping down, giving up control. The stock had been beaten up badly from convertible debt. And I'm like, this is, shareholders are going to win big if this thing even hits a little. So I did the deal. A lot of people made a ton of money. I won't talk too much about what happened when I left, since I only know most of it secondhand. Okay. But after I left, I'm like, okay, well, now I've got the labor business here, because I ended up buying the labor business back from them. After about 90 days, they said, yeah, we don't want this. So I bought the labor business. And so, okay, I don't want to take the labor business public again, because it's just the accounting on that stuff is insane. There's just so many transactions when you've got thousands of employees. The auditing costs are insanely expensive. And I said, well, there's a way to kind of capture that by doing accounts receivables financing. So I'm going to buy a control block in a public company, and I'm going to build an accounts receivable finance company. Yep, that's going to be my future. And that's not what happened. I bought control of Waterside Capital at the time. I changed the ticker and the name to Metavesco. So at the end of 21, I really got heavy into crypto. And DeFi, we had a big DeFi summer, decentralized finance, if you don't know. Bitcoin was pumping. Everything that looked like crypto was pumping. And I just kind of saw an opportunity there. There was only a couple public companies that were, doing anything in blockchain. MicroStrategy was like really kind of making waves with their whole Bitcoin treasury strategy. Coinbase went public, and I was like, okay, this could be something interesting and fun. And that's how Metavesco was really born. I went to some friends. I said, hey, we need to raise some capital to start this thing. Here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be buying crypto. We're going to be doing liquidity pools on Uniswap. We're going to buy some NFTs. Like, wow, this sounds like some real Diligence stuff. Yeah, it kind of does. But there was a time where messing around on the internet was Diligence stuff too, and now literally, everyone. So like I actually remember, just talking about new technologies when social media first became a thing. And I remember spending an hour on Facebook, and my wife says, you just spent an hour on Facebook? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's this new thing where you talk to people, on the internet. I don't use Facebook anymore. It's for old people, but, I use Twitter every day. And, I mean, it's technology comes and changes the landscape of things about every 15, 20 years. And I saw and still see blockchain, which is what the heart of crypto. I saw blockchain and still do see that as the future. And I'm looking for opportunities there. And that's where Metavesco was kind of born. Now we've changed a lot since. We've made some adjustments in our strategy. We started mining Bitcoin, which is probably our most significant investment right now. We've got, I don't know, $700,000-800,000 worth of Bitcoin miners. We bought a specialty coffee company that utilizes NFT IP for the packaging. That's Boring Brew, very unique packaging, and the coffee is by far the best that you will ever taste. I'm going to send you some, and you will 100% agree.
And I will have it on the show.
You're gonna love it.
Just like I'm doing with the hydrogen water. Yeah,
nice.
Guys, I love trying the products for these companies. I'm telling you, because it makes it tangible, it makes it real, And when you could go to a company, and you were talking about oh yeah, it's pretty ironic that you got duped on your first OTC investment or trade, which is funny. But we're at the age now where traders are getting smarter. People that are investors are doing more digging. So if you have a product, you better have it to the house when I deliver it, or else we're gonna have problems.
Right.
Because that's the truth. It really holds companies' feet to the fire where they're like, oh, we have a product. Oh, can I order it? Well, we can't. Yeah, okay, get out of here. And we're going to show. Actually, we'll look at your website here right now. Let's take a look at it. It's really nice. Boringbrew.com. Guys, check this out. And I actually look forward to trying your product. Like I said, I'll do a play-by-play on it. And we actually I sent you the video earlier of me using the DeLonghi, and I love the machine. It grinds it, and it brews it fresh. And I'm telling you, there's nothing like a nice fresh cup of coffee.
You're so right. I used to do the K cups, like nothing but K cups, and because they're fast, they're quick, they're convenient. When we bought this brand, they sent me before we bought it, I'm checking it out, and Eddie, the guy who started it, he sends me a sample box. And so I open up the box, and there's all these cool bags. I mean, I'd only seen the pictures, but the bags were so cool, and they had these cool stickers in the box. And so, man, the opening experience was just really awesome. And I was like, man, this is something right here. And so now I grind, almost all the time. I'm gonna grind.
The artwork is really awesome. Abstract. It's cool stuff, man. And you know what? You could pay using crypto.
You can, absolutely.
And because I was actually messing around with the site earlier. I'm like, that's unique. All right, you enter in your wallet address, and boom, off you go. Yeah. So, guys, check out this website. I look forward to trying the products. Boringbrew.com. You guys got all kinds of merchandise, travel mugs.
Yeah, I've actually got the mug. We got the mug.
Yeah, I love the hat too. I looked at this hat. I might have to snag one of those up, but that's great. The products look great. So I definitely wanted to share that. So, but no, continue on with what you're saying. I was going to ask you one question. You didn't mention how you did a name and ticker change.
Yes.
How long was that process? Because I know that companies are just having a nightmare of a time, and you're waiting a year before anything happens, and that's your company identity, that ticker, that name change. And so I know companies that they don't even want to update, with what they're doing and launch because they want that identity to change for the good of their business too. So
it's okay. So the time that it takes is based on just so many factors, and it's there. Unfortunately, it's not a checklist of do this, and you're done. Okay. I don't remember exactly how long it took. It was probably about 120 days, maybe a little longer than that. In fact, it was so bad, I actually had to call in an ombudsman. So a company can call in an ombudsman if they don't get a response in 90 days. And we did. Reluctantly. The last thing you want to do is like, yeah, I'm calling in daddy to call FINRA. That's, it's not the kind of relationship you want to have with FINRA. So, but I had to, we were 90 days in. I'm like, you haven't even responded to tell me, piss off or anything. It's just ghosted me. So when FINRA ghosts you, you call an ombudsman. So we did. And I thank my lawyers for taking care of that. Laura Anthony is our counsel. She's amazing, very expensive, but worth the money. Yeah, so I think all in all, it was somewhere between 120, 180 days, the whole process. Now, these companies that take longer, I want to tell you behind the scenes, you don't know exactly what's going to happen. You submit your request to FINRA. There's some basic paperwork that you have to send them about the company, showing that you've change that you have the name change prepared at the state. If you're doing like a share change, you have to have documentation for all that, any type of share structure change. Okay. That's like the starter. They come back with a whole list of things, and it's going to be different for every company. It's going to be based off of what they find on Google. And I'll tell you the reason I say that. They asked me about stuff that happened at LaborSmart 10 years ago. I'm like, what does that have to do with changing the name of this company? Well, we want to know what happened with this thing here. So I had to go dig up paperwork from stuff that I did at LaborSmart to show that it was done properly, for them to say, okay, we'll let you change the name of this company. So it's very involved. And
tell me if you think this would be a good idea. And I think that this would be a great solution. When you do, they should have like a clearance form before any company dissolves or before it becomes a shell, before it signs over to another company. They should have a clearing form from the company that has control of that shell, and it should be a FINRA form, and they can't get another company in there until they're cleared. Once you get that clearing form and a new company comes in and wants to change the name, from that point forward, if FINRA already do you see what I'm saying?
That would be great.
That would solve a lot.
But it's very fragmented from oversights fragmented. On the one hand, you have FINRA, where some but not all corporate actions have to be approved. And then on the other hand, you have the SEC, if you're an SEC filer. And then if you're not an SEC filer, that triggers other things with FINRA. And then all of that has to be managed by OTC Markets, which has their own set of rules, which are guidelines at best, not rules. I wish they were rules, because then you could just say, here's the rules. But they're guidelines. So there's a lot of people involved when you do those things. Plus, most of your shells are abandoned tickers these days. You rarely see a new company just get formed up, certainly not on the OTC. Having done it, I don't think that I would ever do it again. It didn't cost me that much. I mean, I think it cost me maybe 15 grand total to get LTNC trading, to become a public company. But then there was a huge investment after that. And the biggest thing that I lost was time. It took me over a year to actually get the thing trading, and then another year to get it liquid. That's 2 years worth of time where we were growing, and we really needed to raise money. And, instead of raising money to grow the company, we were spending money just to get the stock trading. So in hindsight, you're probably better off just buying a shell. Most of the shells that are available are beat up tickers or abandoned companies. In the case of Metavesco, it was once a NASDAQ company and got delisted. And that's how it ended up on the OTC. The good part about that is it was once a NASDAQ company. So the trail of governance is pretty well documented. And there were no previous bad actors in it. You can buy a shell now and file with FINRA, hey, we want to change the name. And they can say, well, so-and-so used to own 5% and they are listed as a bad actor. So we're going to deny this corporate action. And they can do that. And you can't really argue it, because it's just how it is. So.
And I know, because I'm working with some people to help acquire shells, and we're digging through companies, and right when you think you find a good one, something pops up. You're like, oh, this sucks. Yeah. That happens like all the time. And you're talking about convertibles, you're talking about like notes from like 8 years ago that people are still holding on to legally. They're holding on to, and they have the right to hold on to these things. Right. And that's a very frustrating thing. Yes. What you mentioned convertible debt earlier, because we're gonna get to the nitty gritty here. Well, we really are. We're actually talking about the good stuff now. But what was your overall experience? Now, the convertible debt. This is my take on it. You have the conversions as a company. You have a convertible note. You say, all right, for 2 years, I'm going to build this business. I'm going to pay back the convertible note, pay back the interest on it. Okay. Um, if you don't, guess what happens? You're going to see a lot of these conversions,
Yep.
and it's going to affect the retail. It's going to affect the share structure. So from a management standpoint, my goal would be to get profitable as soon as possible and manage that convertible debt. And you see more companies now trying to make a very like a catalyst where they are trying to renegotiate debt, pay
Yeah.
down their convertible debt, and lock up that convertible debt. Just even if they get another year or two, so that way they could expand their company and have more time to pay it. And
Right.
and they still got interest. I mean, but your thoughts on like lessons you've learned on your experience with convertibles.
If you're a NASDAQ company, if you're a listed company, NASDAQ, New York Exchange, it's a different experience. There's some, it's less toxic, I should say. I mean, it's the same experience, just less intense. On the OTC, it's a very different experience, though. You can't really, I mean, there's very few people that are going to do a 2-year convertible. Okay, it may say 2 years, but they can legally they can convert after either 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years, depending on what type of filer or non-filer it is. Which again goes kind of back into the nuances of it. If you are an SEC filer and you are current in your filings, they can convert after 180 days, 6 months. Legally, they can convert unless the contract says they can't. Most of the contracts for the convertible debt that's available will say after 180 days we can convert. This is a 2-year note. It's due in 2 years unless we've converted it out. And of course, they will have converted it out and crushed your stock by then in most cases. They're very, very rare exceptions. If it's a company that was once an SEC filer but voluntarily became an alternative filer, then they can convert after 1 year. They don't have access to the 6-month 144 rule anymore. So that puts them at 1 year. There's very, very, very little convertible debt available, for investors at 1 year. They don't, it's just not the type of investor they are. They want to be in and out 6 months because, and in their defense, they don't know if you're going to be around in a year. You may stop filing, I mean, in their defense, and it's hard for me to defend these guys because most of them are not people you want to do business with. But in their defense, they're loaning money to companies that I wouldn't want to do business with either. So, I kind of understand why they want to be in and out as quick as possible. But it is detrimental to the shareholder, to retail, and it hurts the market as a whole. The SEC has come in and cracked down a lot on that, so you don't see as much of it as you used to. The flip side, though, is there's not very much liquidity in the OTC right now. So, whether or not that was created by that crackdown and the 211 changes, I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. But if you're on the NASDAQ, it's a whole different situation. You don't even really have to the convertible debt that you're getting there is much more vanilla, more traditional. If you need fast money on the NASDAQ, you just file a shelf registration, do an at-the-money offering. You can raise all the capital you want as long as your stock is liquid. You don't have that luxury on the OTC, which again is part of the detriment to why the companies that are left, they're running out of capital. You'll see less and less companies being on the OTC as time continues, unless something drastically changes with the structure of the market.
Right on. Great answer. Thank you for
I'm
sharing.
gonna get off my soapbox now.
Yeah, no, that's great. I like the hat, by the way. It's a good hat.
Go Braves.
Go Braves. Yeah, it's gonna be. You know what? Hey, we're hanging in there. We're hanging in there.
It's I was around in the big '90s run. So I'm still hanging on to those glory years.
We should have had more than one World Series. I mean,
we should have.
I mean, that first Yankees one, it was a '96. That was rough. That was rough.
There was 1 year where, and I, it's been so long, I can't even remember. But it was back in the Sid Bream days. There was 1 year where they were just so bad. It was just, I mean, no one wanted to go to their games. And then the next year, I guess it was 92, because in 93, it was like, yeah, let's go do and win a pennant, But, crazy thing about that, this is very off topic, but do you know why Ted Turner bought the Braves? He had bought Turner Broadcast, or he had Turner Broadcast. He needed programming. He needed cheap programming. There's so many diehard Braves fans. He's like, man, I can buy this team right here, and I have 161 days worth of free programming. Boom. And that's why he bought the Braves.
And that's why I'm in Buffalo, New York. That's why I'm in Buffalo, New York, being a Braves fan, because I'm surrounded by all these Yankees fans, my family, and in the area. I'm not dissing the Yankees
Yeah.
much, but no, I'm just saying, like, I grew up watching TBS.
Sure.
And so that's one thing that, like, you watch and like, oh, dang, I guess this is
Right.
my team.
Yeah.
Remember it was coined America's team, which is
Yeah.
pretty funny. But what a genius when it came to marketing.
Brilliant move. Brent,
You
well,
know?
he spent some money on the team, but all in all, he really saved a lot of money in program. And then he ended up selling TBS for just a truckload of money. So, yeah, good old Ted.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I wanted the guys put your questions in the chat that you have for Ryan Schadel. I want to talk about your share structure. All right. You have 300
Yeah.
million authorized shares. You're at a market cap of 4.4 million,
Yep.
and you have outstanding share count of 69 million. Held at DTC, you have 17 million, and your float was last updated 11/17/2023.
Yep.
But listen, and there was this PR back in February talking about up to $1 million being allocated for a buyback.
Yep.
Now, I gotta say, I mean,
Why
buying
buy
this,
back when you've only got 17 million shares in the float?
exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
like, it's a mint share structure. I mean, it's eye candy to the retail investor. Like, they see buyback, and it's like, oh wow, buyback, and
Yeah.
I get it. So, what is the rationale behind that and purpose?
Well, it kind of goes back to the liquidity conversation about the OTC. Unless your stock is a 0001, 001 something, it's insanely difficult to get liquidity.
Hmm.
The stock's at 5 cents right now, and that's after we did a forward split, a 10-1 forward split. It was a 50-cent stock. Well, I guess it's at 6 cents now. I don't know, but we did 10-1 forward split, and my thought was, okay, this will probably improve the liquidity. That did not happen. So instead of not trading at 50 cents, now we're just not trading at 5 cents. And that's very frustrating because, it's kind of going back to my roots of how I ended up in the OTC in the first place. It's one of the few legitimate businesses that actually traded in the OTC that actually have anything of substance. When we started it, I raised a little over $1 million in startup capital, very conventional money to build the company. And when's the last time you saw an OTC stock raise $1 million in conventional, traditional vanilla looking capital? It just doesn't happen. So the whole time, we're 3 years in now, which I can't believe it's been 3 years. We've still not taken anything that's even close to toxic anything. And it's super clean, man. The thing should be at $20, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't mean it should be at $20 just for the legal, whatever, right? But you know what I'm saying? And so, I'm like, okay, well, look, I really feel like we're going to hit our stride here. We've got the Bitcoin miners going, coffee, any of this stuff can really take off for us, and we're going to be sitting on excess capital. And when we do, if the market doesn't want to buy the shares, we'll just buy the shares. If they're going to be undervalued, why wouldn't we buy them? So, that's why.
It's true, like, especially with fund. You mentioned the funding, and that's very difficult right now.
Yeah.
You mentioned, having that liquidity and having the volume in the market. It's not there. But what I'm trying to do is, and anybody that's been watching the show knows, and you try to find solid, real companies that have really good share structures, because eventually that's the point. In these medium to long holds, you invest, you buy it up, I will use NUMD as an example to real estate and investment. And one of our traders was talking about it, and he just says, you know what, I just keep loading it, and when it has its time, it has its time. And I feel the same way about you guys.
Sure.
When you have something nice like that, when you have the nice share structure, and you actually are really building upon your business, and we're going to get the more in depth on what you have coming up, which is going to be pretty cool. I think that is just it's a beacon of hope. It's a beacon of opportunity as an investor, because it's easy to invest when everything's excited and going wild and crazy,
Right.
and everything's are going up 10,000%. But it's also nice to sit back and find the real companies that are, I'm going to say the word stagnant with volume and share price, because eventually, it's going to see an influx. I mean, this isn't the end of the trading world now, knock on wood.
Right.
My hope is that you guys see an influx in volume, and
Um,
that's your hope too, I'm sure.
yeah, well, yeah, it is. It's the state of the OTC market has just made it just a hostile place to do business, frankly. Not even hostile. It's just like it's like walking into the middle of the desert setting up a lemonade stand. You got lemonade, and people in the desert want lemonade, but guess what? People don't live in the desert. So that's kind of like that. And I'm out, it wasn't like that in 21, but it happened so rapidly at the end of 21. All these companies got sent to expert market and the liquidity just dried up. Okay. So, I do think it will come back. I don't know what it will take. But in terms of Metavesco stock and its liquidity, I believe at least it's more of a symptom of the market than the company itself. That's my opinion. I'm biased, of course, but show me another stock that's trading, at 6 cents with 17 million shares outstanding,
Yeah.
and actually trading.
Do you think market sentiment is going to change based on election results? And how much bearing do you think that's going to have?
I think for the big board stocks, I think it will be very important and relevant. Whether or not that trickles down to the OTC, I don't know. I do know that when Donald Trump was president, there was more liquidity in the OTC, and you could argue that was because interest rates were just lower. People had more capital. You could argue that the market was just doing well and people had more capital. I think you have to attribute that to the leadership of the country and the economy. So now, whether or not that's real, I don't know. I feel like it is. Again, we are in a very different environment now from a regulatory standpoint in the OTC. These companies, it's just so hard to raise capital. Even if you had liquidity, the prerequisites to raise capital, just put you almost as a non-starter, even if your stock's trading.
The terms are horrible sometimes.
How are you going to raise money? Yeah. What mechanisms do you have to raise money? You can do a private placement. No one wants to do a private placement in an OTC stock. Maybe if it's a 6-month hold type stock, maybe you can do a private placement then. But it's going to be a very sophisticated investor. We had the Reg A Plus and the crowdfunding. That was supposed to solve all the problems. It did nothing except give toxic funders another way to buy and sell stock quickly by using a Reg A instead of a convertible note. That's all that did. Your average Joe has no idea how to buy shares discounted in a Reg A offering, deposit those shares, and turn around and sell those shares. It's such a complicated thing. It'll cost you, $2,500 just to deposit the shares at a broker, and it's not going to be E-Trade or Schwab. It's going to be someone you've never heard of. It's just not retail friendly on the capital raise part, and there's no funds. On the New York Stock Exchange, Nasdaq, you have funds that invest in these companies, and they just that's their business model. There are no funds that have a business model investing in OTC stocks beyond the toxic funders. And maybe there's some that are less toxic now, but the reality is they'll end up toxic. There's going to be a mechanism that hedges their bet, and they are able to fleece whatever retail might be left. And so that's the landscape. So kind of, I know I'm sounding all doom and gloom about the OTC. No. And I do think that depending on what happens with the election, I do think some liquidity will come back, but I also think there needs to be legislative changes. There needs to be a restructuring of how the market structure works in regards to the OTC market group. Things need to change. A legitimate company should be able to file a shelf registration statement or do an at the market offering as an OTC company. The only difference between an OTC company doing that and a NASDAQ company is that it's a NASDAQ company. It's such an arbitrary determination. And so that's why I think, that's what needs to happen. Now, Donald Trump, if he wins, I'll just point out a few things. There was a time where he had a company that he owned over 20% of that was an OTC company, and it was, I don't remember, Donald Trump Casinos or what, and it was his casino group. It was an OTC traded company. A lot of people don't remember that, but it was a pink sheet company. So, it's not like he's unfamiliar with the landscape, but we need legislative change. Gary Gensler, bless his heart, I'll be excited for his retirement, when that happens. So, yeah.
You're not wrong when you talk about because I've invested privately, and I actually was on the phone with Wilson Davis today.
Okay.
So
it's a great firm, by the way. If you're looking for a wholesale broker, I personally highly recommend Wilson Davis. Go ahead.
And but like you said, getting those OTC shares, getting them deposited, going through the
Yeah,
process,
get them
you're
cleared
looking at $3,000, and
easily.
they want to make sure that they cover their ass when it comes time to for SEC, because they don't want FINRA or SEC. They don't want any problems whatsoever, and they
Yeah,
want to make sure that you didn't get too good of a deal on your shares, we could
yeah.
say. And so it's very tightly wound. And it was a very interesting conversation. But no, it's Wilson Davis. Check it out. If you actually are investing privately, that would be a place that you would go to deposit your shares.
100%.
And not to mention, you pay for them to do a review, basically, to make sure that they could accept them and want to accept them. It's low risk. And then I think you have to they get a percentage. I forgot how much they get per trade. They get like
5% in most
it's
cases.
5%, right?
5%.
Yeah,
Think about that
that's
for a moment.
hefty.
Yeah.
You got
I
5%
remember,
and your taxes and all that other stuff. I mean, it's
yeah, my very first trade at First Union, I paid $39 in commission, and I thought that was a lot. Yeah, try paying 5%. But again, in their defense, they're under such a tremendous amount of scrutiny. The work that they have to do on the back end from a compliance side, I mean, it's overwhelming. It really is. I mean, the whole lower end, the nano cap area needs a complete rework, and it's going to take somebody with enough money and guts to go fix that. There used to be a dozen companies that would clear, penny stocks, OTC stocks, so long as they had, the paperwork was in order. There used to be a dozen. There's like 3, and one of those I hear is losing their license so imminently. So that will by the way have ripple throughout the OTC. There are going to be there'll be issues in the OTC when that happens, because they're the largest clearing company for OTC stocks.
wow.
Yeah, you can Google crazy. Alpine Securities FINRA and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that is absolutely crazy. Guys, keep putting your questions in the chat. We're going to get to your questions at the very, very end of this. I did want to talk about, there's a couple things that I wanted to talk about. Boring Brew. All right, so you're talking about getting some funding. How exactly is this deal going to work? Could you explain it a little bit more in depth for us?
Okay, so Boring Brew, again, it's a specialty coffee company. We utilize the intellectual property from different NFT holders. The Bored Ape Yacht Club is probably the biggest. So if you look at our packaging, a lot of them are Bored Apes, and we basically did licensing agreements with the Bored Ape holders. So like I own a Bored Ape, I don't have mine licensed, but there are other people who have apes. We did a licensing deal with them to use the image of their ape on the packaging. It's very cool looking, by the way. And so in the Bored Ape Yacht Club, I guess it was May 22-ish, they launched the ApeCoin and the ApeCoin DAO. So a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. Basically, think of it like a foundation. Okay. And so they were granted a bunch of ApeCoin, and the ApeCoin was to be divvied out to different projects that were for advancing the Bored Ape Yacht Club and the ApeCoin community as grants. There's a company called Thank Ape, or a DAO called Thank Ape, that was created by ApeCoin. It's like, okay, look, we're going to find these different businesses that are using Bored Ape IP and other IP from Yuga Labs. That's the creator of Bored Ape Yacht Club. And we're going to allocate some ApeCoin for them. So you submit your basically your project, your company, your product. For us, it's simple enough because you can hold it and see it, right? We're not making widgets. We have an actual thing you can use and consume. And we submitted our company for the Thank Ape project, and they picked, I don't remember how many it was, 30, I think. And so the idea is, this is really like the first initial phase too, by the way. So they're going to give us 20,000 ApeCoin, who knows what that's going to be worth when we get it and are able to use it or whatever. When they did it, it was $20,000. Now it's probably 16 or 17. It's very volatile. And a year ago it would have been 80 grand. So, who knows, but the end of it is that particular project is investing in different projects that were made by apes and ApeCoin holders and Bored Ape holders. So it's an exciting project for us from an engagement standpoint. We've seen the engagement go way up on our socials. We've seen orders increase because of it. So part of it is there's a contest to create some artwork And if you go to X or Twitter and you search Boring Brew, you'll see just different people posting different concepts, and that's all part of the whole, the program. And it's very cool. The engagement has been off the charts, and we think that it will translate into more sales. More importantly, though, it for us, it's the lead in for what we really want to do with the ApeCoin DAO. We're at some point very soon going to submit an AIP, which is a proposal. It's called an Ape Improvement Program. Okay, it's a proposal. It's a business proposal, more or less. But we're going to be submitting an AIP and requesting a $1.2 million grant from the DAO to launch an ApeCoin themed coffee truck. And it will be not just a truck on wheels, but we will also do brick and mortar. And so really excited about that. Now, I don't know exactly when that will happen, but I do believe it will be this year. Talking with Ray and Eddie on that. Super excited about that. We don't know that they'll give us the grant, but I feel like since we have this first one with Thank Ape, I feel like we have a very good chance. And of course, we're talking to members of the community and engaging with them because it's a community vote that determines whether or not you get the grant. And there's been, millions and millions of dollars that have been granted in ApeCoin in the last 2 years. So I think we have a very good chance of getting that. And for the ApeCoin DAO, the what they're really buying with that money is exposure, education opportunities to talk to people about ApeCoin, but the things that ApeCoin is involved with, such as ApeChain. There's a new, I'm going to say it's an L1 because I think it's probably more of a development layer than a transaction layer. But in any case, ApeChain is being built. That's another project that was funded by the ApeCoin DAO. And it'll be a blockchain for gaming. And, just being involved in that kind of stuff for us just gives us exposure to a community that's just a natural native user of our products because of the IP that we use. Very exciting. We're having to look 2-3 steps ahead to see where the payoff is, but I feel like it will be there.
Right. Good for you. I hope it does work out, and I hope you guys achieve that grant. I really do. All right. Yeah, that's it. And my fingers are crossed for you.
That's all we could do.
And I got a poke. There hasn't been any official news, but you guys didn't mention that you're exploring a potential acquisition of a historic South Carolina distillery. So, guys, check out these PRs. You could go right on otcmarkets.com, look at the news, and boom, and have a read. But you can see here, this is something that it's been creating a little bit of a buzz. So what can you tell us about this deal, that you could legally tell us right now? And what are you excited about?
Okay. I have to be careful because it's not a done deal. I want to be very clear. This is not a done deal. I haven't sent them an official LOI yet. I went there. Okay, so I'll back up a little bit. This is another one of those situations where you get a phone call and it's like, hey, I want you to check out this deal. And if this deal ends up happening, it will 100% be coined as Takeover 2.0. Okay. Because it's a very similar situation, minus Alex Guerrero and Tom Brady. I got a phone call.
That's a bold statement. That's great.
Yeah, it is. I got a phone call from a guy who says, hey, there's this acquisition I want you to take a look at. I mean, I get presented these things all the time, okay? And most of them are garbage, and I was like, yeah, just not interested. And I did initially on this. I was like, I don't know. I mean, if it's a Bitcoin, does it have to do a Bitcoin? Is there some NFTs involved? Is it blockchain? No, it's none of those things. But there is kind of a blockchain component. And once I started reading about it, I was like, okay, well, I'll tell you, I'll go meet the lady. I'll go look at the business. And I plan to be there for about an hour. Like I told my son, I said, you know what? I just need you to go with me because, it's going to be a long drive. I'm only going to be there for like an hour or two, and I'm going to be tired. You can drive back. I ended up staying down there for 3 days.
Wow. Look,
if this deal happens, it will change the face of the company. It's a humongous deal. It is if I recall, the oldest distillery in Charleston, South Carolina. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's what it is. The product is, I consume a fair amount of alcohol. Okay. I consider myself a connoisseur of bourbon.
Love my bourbon.
I love my single barrel Scotch. Like Macallan 15 is my favorite.
Yummy.
Yeah. So this, I mean, there's probably, I mean, I might argue there's too many different SKUs, but I think there's 16 different SKUs. And the ones that I tried, I think I tried maybe 5 of them. And this is really good stuff. I mean, good quality stuff too. They've got about 1,100 barrels of 8-year-old aged bourbon sitting in a warehouse somewhere.
Wow.
I mean, yeah. I mean, those retail for about $12,000 a barrel. I mean, you can do the math. I mean, it's a potentially ginormous deal. Okay. You know, I don't have an LOI yet. I've had ongoing conversations. I sent the lady a very long list of items that I needed to review for due diligence. She has provided them. I have reviewed them, and I'd send over an email with kind of my bullet point thoughts on it. And then she had I don't want to tell her personal business, but she had a family emergency that has pulled her away for a few days. So hopefully I'll hear back on that, you know, in the next few days, and hopefully her family's okay. But that that deal is if we get it done, it's going to be huge. Okay. And again, I want to be very clear. It's not done yet. There's no guarantee it will get done. I don't know that it will get done. She might ghost me. I make it happen. I don't know. But if it does get done, it's going to be massive. The products are real. There's a real facility. You can walk in, you can look at some bourbon, you can see them make the bourbon, which is honestly, from a tourist standpoint, it's just really cool seeing them make this stuff. So we did a tour of the place. They showed us not just what they have now. And that's not really what's exciting about this. And this is where I got to be just real careful about what I'm talking about. What they have already is cool. What they want to do is even cooler. And so we walked the facility they have, and we also walked the facility they want to have. And she painted her vision for me. And, you know, I'm really not, I'm the last guy that's going to buy into someone else's vision for things. I rarely get excited about somebody else's thing. But she painted it for me. And, if you know, it's like a prerequisite to do a deal, you know, like this. It's got to be, you know, I need to see, you know, what you see. And she sold it. She sold me. And it's a big deal. I pray about it daily. I hope we get it done. And, you know, when the time comes to announce who that is and what that is, you know, I hope everybody tries out the product, because I'm telling you, it is really, they've got this spiced rum. Okay.
No wonder why you got stuck down there for 3 days. Now it makes sense.
Well, I did make a joke that somebody had to test it, you know. Yeah.
We're going to go check this distillery out for an hour. Said no guy ever.
Yeah. No, we were there for like 6 hours. Yeah, it was
great.
They were having some kind of event there, and they had a little concert going. You know, there was like a band out there playing. Nice. They've got the garage doors rolled up, and everybody's just hanging out, having a good time. It's a huge facility. People are just hanging out, having a good time. You know, and it was fun. I mean, it was just fun just hanging out there. It's a real nice vibe. You could tell that she's real big in the community. And for me, I see the opportunity. Yeah, she is big in the community. But I feel like there's a much bigger opportunity on a nationwide distribution scale. So it turns out there are 16 states now where you can directly distribute bourbon, you know, any spirit really. Most states, you have to go through a distributor. So like, for example, in Georgia, if I want to buy something, I place an order online, the product gets sent to New York, and the guy in New York sends it to me. And so there's so many middlemen involved. But there are 16 states now. I mean, you know, we're growing up. It is 2024. People don't want to have to go to the liquor store to buy it. We want to do it just like we do everything else. We want to go to Walmart.com and just buy our bourbon, you know, or whatever.
So the wine clubs up here, like we're close to the Finger Lakes, and a lot of those guys, they have, you know, where you get your boxes of wine 3 or 4 times a year, you know, for the different collections or whatever, and boom, they send them right to your house. And so, you know, direct company to home is amazing.
Direct consumer,
you know?
Yeah. And so, you know, this stuff, like I want to go back to the spiced rum, and that was what sold it for me. You know, I got the little, you know, samples. You know, I'm not getting hammered or anything. And so I'm trying all these different things, and you know, you got to cleanse your palate when you're tasting these things. But when I tried the spiced rum, I expected like a Captain Morgan's or something, which I like Captain Morgan's. But I thought it was a Big Red. I mean, it tasted like Big Red chewing gum mixed with
Interesting.
Bert. Oh, it was good, man. I mean, it was really good. It's like, kind of like a fireball. I don't know if you ever had a fireball. It's like a fireball, but smooth.
I'm a Sailor's Jerry guy. Sailor Jerry.
Oh, okay.
That's one of mine. Love it.
Look, if this deal happens, I'll give you a sample, okay, and you will appreciate
it. And I will gladly accept.
Yeah, So
I gotta ask: is New York one of those 16 states that you could directly?
I'm not sure. So I'm not an expert in this area beyond being a consumer.
Interesting.
But I can tell you that the team that's at this place, they are experts, and the team is just amazing. They're all overachievers. So it's a family-run operation. Okay. One of them's got I don't know if it's a PhD or something, but they're literally a doctor. There's another one that's got a bachelor's in psychology. They're all overachievers. They're the entire family, and they're all working there to build this thing. And it's the coolest story. It's the coolest story. It's the coolest story that you're going to see, in 2024. I can just tell you that. I mean, it might not be as cool as Alex Guerrero and Tom Brady. Okay. Maybe it ain't that cool.
You're saying that to a Bills fan. So, I mean, like, whatever, Hey, so while we're here, I want to give the cheers of the week. The cheers of the week this week is Jeremy West. And when we were talking about Nicolas Cage memes, I said to tag me with your favorite Nicolas Cage meme. He did it. So Jeremy West, give him a follow on the X, Twitter, whatever you call it. So cheers to you, Jeremy. Shout out to you. And we have a couple questions in the chat.
I have to know what the winning meme was.
Oh, it was. Oh my God, I can't remember. It was about 2 weeks ago. I mean, you can't go wrong with a Nick Cage.
There's some funny Nicolas Cage memes.
Well, I mean, they're great. I mean, I love them. Which one was it? See, bad memory. I should have had that pulled up. You're holding my feet to the fire right now.
Opportunity. It's all right.
Before we get to a couple questions that we have for you, because I know we've been at almost an hour, I think it's time that we do a fire round with Ryan Schadel. And this is what we're going to do. And I'm going to explain this. So, when we get to this fire round, he's going to have 2 minutes. And he's going to have 2 minutes to answer 10 questions. And there will be a bonus question. If he gets the bonus right, if he gets everything straight away, the first person to email me at bfccontest@gmail.com will win some hot sauce, and I will send it out to you, just like I did for Jeremy West. So I think it's time to get this thing going. Rob, let's get this party started. Oh, LTN thing going on. Oh, I see. I thought he was going to play the hydro water. All right, let's get that timer. Are you ready to do?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right, let's do this. All right, here we go. Chicken wings, blue cheese, or ranch?
Ranch.
Oh my gosh. What is the greatest risk you have ever taken?
Taking LTNC public.
All right. If you could only invest in only one industry for the rest of 2024, what would it be?
Crypto.
Wow. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Mind control.
Wow, that was a good one. What stock trade was your biggest gainer?
Coinbase.
If you had to invest in one OTC cult stock, which one would it be?
I cannot answer that question for legal reasons.
All right. Who would you appoint as the president of the internet and why?
John Cena.
John Cena?
Yeah, because you can't see me.
Right, that's right.
Privacy.
What's your favorite board game? I know you take those seriously.
Monopoly.
Monopoly.
Yeah, Pit would be my second one.
Got it. What period would you travel to if you were given a time machine?
1920s.
1920s. If you could sit with a world-famous CEO, who would it be and why?
Elon Musk, because he's Elon Musk.
Right on. Bonus. Will the Atlanta Braves make it to the NLCS this year? And if so, who will be their opponent?
I don't think they will. No. Close, but no cigar.
Rough.
Yep.
Rough. Well,
did I make the timer? Oh, I've got time. I'm 38 seconds
made
left.
The timer, man.
Bro. You had 20 questions.
Hey, he made the timer. We have 32 seconds to spare. So whoever emails me first at bfccontest@gmail.com, bfccontest, just put in contest there. Send me an email and say that, hey, I want to be the first one. If you're the first one, then I'm sending you some buffalo wing sauce. So you did very, very well. You know, you had really rapid answer. The 1920s, huh?
1920s, the Roaring
1920s.
'20s, man. I mean, have you ever seen The Great Gatsby? That just looks
Oh, yeah.
so fun. Everybody's having a great time. I mean, I thought we were going to have the Roaring '20s all over again. It hasn't been that yet, but I thought we were going to. It started off that way at least.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
The board game. I saw your post. That's why I had to put the board game in there. What game were you guys playing?
Pit. We're playing Pit. So it's basically your commodity.
That was intense. That was an intense clip.
Yeah, that was the tame clip. There was another one with some people jumping up on the table. We'll save that for another time. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that game. It's a fun game. It's loud. You need some water to play it because you're going to be screaming. And my family. We do that once every couple of weeks, some kind of game. Just to keep things grounded. Yeah. So.
We stopped doing that as a family on my dad's side.
It's tough.
So you know what we did, because like one game, what I think it was categories or whatever it was. And the question was things found in the ocean. All right. And my brother said a penny. And I said, then you could see where the argument.
It could be found.
He goes, you don't think there's a penny in the ocean? I guarantee there's a penny in the ocean. I go, all right. But like, I think, is it naturally found in the ocean? Let me ask you guys, is a penny being found in the ocean, things found in an ocean? I know this is going back 10 years. I'm if he's watching, he's probably going to call me up later and be like,
I can see.
I don't know. Would you accept that answer, Ryan? Would you?
I don't know, man. I would probably argue against it, I think. But I tell you, we have a rule here. Like, I love Monopoly, but it is off limits for this family. We've thrown away so many Monopoly boards from fights ensuing. And my wife just refuses to play Monopoly with me. So I like to sell the hotels on one side of the board and move them to the other side of the board when I know she's coming around.
See, I've always been a Yahtzee guy. We like our big roll bingo. We like our, it's sort of funny how like the games get really intense. And we did this one where you get these blocks, and you get a picture of what it looks like, and you have to explain to the other person where to put the blocks to make that.
Wow.
And fun. It's tricky, but it gets so frustrating because like you're sitting there screaming at each other. It's like, no, you must move it the other way, but you can't tell them, like, you can't touch anything. I can't remember what the hell the name of the game was.
Humanity. You ever play that?
I have not played that game. People love that game.
It's great when you're having some alcohol, some adult beverages. Yeah. It's really great. Yeah. But
a lot of people got into that one.
It's very offensive. It's a very offensive game.
I probably would have a blast.
Yeah.
Absolutely would have a blast. Well, I have a couple questions here from Teddy Mello, and I wanted to bring these up for you. Does buying back help the share price? Because I've seen low outstanding shares on a good company, but nothing on share price.
Does it help? I don't think you could argue that it helps it directly because there are rules. You can't use a buyback as a way to push the price of the stock up, like the SEC prohibits you from doing that. That falls under the manipulation. So when a company does a buyback, they have to do it under certain rules, and they have to follow certain steps to get safe harbor so that they're not accused of manipulating the stock. So I would say directly, I don't think you could say yes, it helps. I think in the long term, though, if the company executes and there's less and less shares available, then it should, quote unquote, should help the price of the stock. That's the best answer I can really give. That's a great question, though. Thank you for that.
Yep, and he had a follow-up as well.
Is the OTC trap if you have a good company?
Sometimes it seems that way.
I'll tell you.
Understand that.
I'll tell you, probably. But there's a caveat. If I could go back and do it, the biggest mistake I made with Metavesco. When I looked for a shelf to purchase, I wanted one that was clean and low float. I want it to be pristine, and I paid a premium, almost $500,000 for the control block. Okay. I wanted something that was pristine. Again, my stemming back to me getting took by that scammer in Passel Corp back in 2004 or whatever it was. Yeah, it stuck with me. And I made the foolish decision, really the same one I made with the LTNC, with the share price. The price is too high. It's so clean that the price is too high for the type of investors that are in the OTC right now. that's part of the challenge. If I could go back and do it over again, I would have found a banged up ticker that's sitting at 0001. And instead of spending $500,000 for the control block, I would have spent 60 grand for the control block and maybe 200 cleaning the thing up. And we'd have $1 billion market cap right now. And that's what would have happened, literally. And the next time I do this, that's what I will do. Okay. So,
and it's just something, because like you could see companies that have a really nice tight share structure. They're putting up revenues. They look solid. And it's just like there's no pulse. And then you have a 00 ticker, or a trip. You have a trip play, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, they put up out a PR that there's going to be news soon, and the thing's going through the roof. Like, they just announced a deal with Tesla or something. It's crazy.
Now, there is a caveat, okay? The OTC does work in cycles. So right now I believe we're kind of at the end of this 0000 cycle, much like the big board. So today you saw a rotation from large caps to small caps. The Russell index did well. NASDAQ and SPY did not. Why? Well, because people believe interest rates are going to come down. Well, what's going to happen? That means that the smaller companies will do better. The larger companies have capital. They don't care if interest rates are low or not. They can fund their own operation. Smaller companies will do better. So you saw a rotation out of the bigger mega cap stocks into small caps. That's why IWM was up today. So I believe, the OTC is a similar way. You run through cycles. So I believe we're coming to the end of this 0000 cycle, and we'll hopefully move into the low float mover cycle. And if you go on Twitter and you look at some of the bigger names of guys that have been around for a while, you will see that that's been mentioned a few times recently. And I do think that's probably the next cycle for the OTC is the low float mover cycle, because what happens is all these 0000 stocks start moving. The liquidity starts getting spread out, and there's not enough firepower to move those heavy float stocks. I think you'll see one or two more really big movers, okay? And then I think you will see that capital rotate into lower float stocks that have catalysts. I can't talk about catalysts because I don't want to get a call from the SEC or any of that, but I think you will see low float companies that actually have something going on. When we move to that cycle, those companies will perform really well, and hopefully the ones that do will be smart enough to reward shareholders and not cram liquidity and an endless supply of shares down their throat, hopefully. So, and Metavesco will be one of those if that occurs.
Yeah, and I do agree with you. I do believe it's cyclical.
Yes.
I do believe that we are going to see a changing of the tide, turning of the tide, I guess you could say. I also believe that, and you're talking about the interest rates, people think the interest rates are going down. I've talked to people, they think the exact opposite is going to happen. And they say that we're due for a major crash by the end of this year or early next year. And I was talking to somebody who mentioned that it's going to be the housing market that triggers this.
Could be.
Very well could be. And the housing market's out of control right now. It's crazy, especially up here in New York. I mean, my house is worth almost $250,000 and I did not pay that much for it. And you know what? If I want to get an upgraded home, I'm going to have to spend close to $600,000, $700,000, which is ludicrous.
Sure.
In this area that I live in, this Western New York area. So it all affects everything else.
Yeah, everything is connected. It is a global economy now too, so we do have some impact of things that happen overseas. But
I mean, how are property values down there? I mean, like it's through the roof. I mean, you're talking a 3-bedroom house with like 1 bathroom, and these things are going for like $200,000. It's insane. $300,000.
Yeah, I think probably the average. So I'm in North Georgia, and I think probably the average like entry level home here is $350,000, $400,000. And that's not a super nice house either. The thing is, though, you have a huge chunk of homeowners sitting on 2% and 3% mortgages. They are not selling those homes. There is no so what caused the global financial crisis was this massive influx of supply. There's just not going to be that because no one's going to sell their home if they've got a 2% mortgage, unless they can go get a 2% mortgage. Okay. And so that's the thing. When rates, if and when rates come down, this is my belief, not to just disagree with you. If and when rates comes down, I think you will see houses. I do think prices will actually come down a little initially. Okay. But I think it will translate into even higher prices because people will be willing to sell this home to go buy another home. Right now, there's just, prices are going up. I think less houses are being sold. Prices are going up because there's just not enough supply. We need like 3 million houses just to make meet basic supply right now, from what I've read, anyways. Maybe go
Yeah.
start a home builder. It's a good time for it. But yeah, I don't know. I hope we don't have a crash. I'm on the bullish side if Donald Trump wins. I'm not going to contemplate any other alternatives currently.
Right on. Well, we're going to see how it all plays out.
Indeed,
I want to thank you for taking the time to come on the fireside. It's been absolutely great. I know we were talking about doing this about a week ago, and I'm glad we were finally able to sit down and I was able to pick your brain a little bit. So you're always welcome back on the BFC to give us an update. So thank you very much for joining me.
Hey, I really appreciate you having me. It's been great. You've been amazing, and thanks for the great questions. And it's just really been great. Thank you so much.
And I can't wait to try Boring Brew. Can't wait.
A bag being shipped to you, you should have it within 3 or 4 days.
Yep, and you'll probably have a long-term customer. All right, that is Ryan Schadel from Metavesco, ticker MVCO. Now get this guy out of here. Get him out of here. Get him out. Get him out. Get him out of here. Get him out. Get that guy. Get him gone. Hey, Ryan, he's backstage. Hang out backstage so we can have a chat after the show. Hey, we're going to go live again on Sunday, 6 p.m. We're going to talk about a couple stocks. A new stock that has been added to the BFC watch list in the Discord. I announced this one yesterday, is ticker SFWJ. Look into it. Do some digging. Let me know what you think. But I do have a position in that one now, and I'm going to be following it much more closely. That's all I got. Let's see. What do we have here? Different topic. Ask Nick about CGRA. I will be covering CGRA in the next couple weeks. I know I sort of put that one on the back burner. I did contact their company. Remember, we did the product review. So we really haven't heard much about what's going on with CGR lately, but they're still on the watch list. I still own shares. I still have my position. Let's see. Wayne Sheldon, let's go IGPK. We'll see where IGPK goes. There's a lot to be thankful for this year, especially with that stock. I mean, we called it here at, 777. So, we're all looking good. The BFC crew. So what a nice run that thing went on. So, and you know what, the business is doing what they're doing, and they're it looks like they're expanding, and I can't wait for the Q2 financials. So, but listen, that's all I got. We just went at it for more than an hour with Ryan Schadel. It was great having him, and that's it. That's all I got. Peace out, and remember, there's more that binds us than breaks us.